Okay, so hello to everyone who have joined recently. My name is Camilla Blixen. I'm a PhD student at the University of Oslo in Norway and one of the student ambassadors of the Human Brain Project. I will be your host for this sixth iteration of TN Slides. Today, a special edition on career development. So HPP TN Slides is a virtual tea break with 2 to 10-minute talks followed by a Q&A session where you, the participants, can ask questions for the speakers. So today, Karin Grasenek and Julia Tratning from Convallo in Austria and Siv Ben-Sion from the Tel Aviv University will discuss factors for successful career development and tips on how to find a postdoc position. And I have had a chance to peek at their presentations, and I will definitely say that you're in for a treat. But before we start, I have some practical information. If you experience any technical issues that cannot be solved during the session, please contact the education team on their email, education@humanbrainproject.eu, so they can try to fix the problem for the next session. And if you have questions for the speakers, post in the Q&A chat. It's on the right hand here in this WebEx program. And please set the setting visible for all panelists. So we can keep these for the Q&A session after the talks. And then it will also be possible to use the raise hand function and ask questions verbally if you would prefer that. The recording and presentation slides from this session can be found in the education program's e-library a few days after the event. And today after the session, discussion can be continued in the HPP students Slack. So it's hpp-students.slack.com in the channel #HPP-TN-Slides. But you can find the links on the slides that we showed previously, and maybe we will have them up again. Okay, so now we can begin with the first talk. So Karin and Julia have established a mentoring program. They coordinate the Diversity and Equal Opportunities Committee of the HPP, and they are here now to answer your questions on career planning. So thank you, Karin and Julia, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Camilla, for this nice introduction. I hope you can hear me as well. Yeah. Wonderful. So you were talking about a presentation. So the first thing I do now is I try to share it, right? So this should be working now. I hope you can see the screen with the TN slides.
Yes.
Wonderful. So a warm welcome also from Julia and myself. And we are here to support you in your career development. And you are certainly aware that striving for a scientific career means that you have to meet high demands, but not only high demands, somehow they also seem to be contradicting. And this is exactly why Julia and I have chosen for this presentation the following title: Striving for a Career in Academia, How Paradox Can It Become? And we will go briefly through a set of paradoxical demands, which we identified. Maybe you will come up and find some more. And then we will demonstrate that the apparently paradox demands are actually well connected in a meaningful way. We will introduce examples how to bridge these demands successfully, including some tools and techniques that will help you to do so. So here come some paradox demands for your career. I try to switch the screen. On the one hand, you're supposed to have a clear vision to follow a plan with perseverance and at the same time take emerging chances and adjust change your plans accordingly. You should follow the instructions of your supervisor and at the same time become an independent and unique scientist. You're supposed to be 200% dedicated to your work and at the same time to keep a good life domain balance. You should be striving for excellence in science and at the same time you are supposed to be an excellent networker. And you must survive in a world of tough competition and at the same time collaborate, hopefully, of course, collaborate with all of your colleagues. So how are these seemingly contradicting demands connected? Will we start with the first one that we mentioned, with vision and plans that you should make? Without a clear vision and a plan to follow, it is sometimes difficult to stay tuned with your career. And it is important to keep this big picture in mind throughout everyday life, in which the sheer amount of different tasks is sometimes really distracting. And this is why it is important to, at the one hand, have this vision and a plan, and at the same time, look for upcoming opportunities which might, in this destructive and distracting amount of tasks, show up. And they only show up for you if you're ready, if you have this vision in mind, then you will be able to identify them and to adapt your plans and change the route if necessary. One perfect example was given by Andrew Davison, one of the career ambassadors whom we interviewed at the eBrains infrastructure training at the career coffee break. And he told us that he had a postdoc position in Yale, but he left Yale, went back to England with his wife because their first daughter was born. And at this time he had no job. So he took a position as a maths teacher in school, but kept on searching to follow his vision of becoming a scientist, which he did quite successfully. He did not become a maths teacher, but a scientist. To sum up, that means that if you don't know where you want to go, you might end up at any place. And you certainly don't want to choose any place, but really the one you want to be. And here are two techniques that can help you to identify this place and to keep it in your mind. First advice, create a vision board. This is the Human Brain Project, so we know that our brain likes to follow a vision. And this is made up, a vision board is made up of pictures of your role models or places where you want to be. You can put there inspirational notes, keywords, numbers you want to achieve. And if you look at it every day, your mind will follow. So this is really good advice and a good exercise for all of us. I keep little cards that I can take with me, for example, little vision boards. So another advice that I would like to share with you is writing a diary. Diary is helpful because you can reflect your recent achievements as well as throwbacks. And among others, you can write down what you have learned today. Most importantly, if you have to face throwbacks, that you can that you ask yourself, how can you use today's events for your future, even if they seem to be unpleasant at the moment? So in this respect, you can adapt and change your plans while keeping your vision in your mind. And one of the visions you have is certainly to become an independent and unique scientist. But at the stage you're in right now, at an early career stage scientist, you depend very much on your supervisor and the task you're given by your supervisor. and not all of these tasks are directly connected to your thesis or your personal career. So you're part of a team, and as such, you're also expected to contribute to common tasks, to master common tasks that all of the team share. In a world of giving and taking, your colleagues and your supervisor will be likely to support you if you ask for it, if you also master these common tasks. However, if you don't say what you want, you won't get it. So if you think that if you do everything your supervisor tells you, that a team and your supervisor will automatically support your plans in return, usually that doesn't work. It is important to learn to communicate clearly your vision, your plan, what you want to do, and to ask for guidance directly. Well, some of you might find that quite natural. I think, why do I mention it? But for some of us, it's not that easy. And and a very important aspect of getting what you want and really having some time for yourself to develop your career is also to learn how to say no in a very polite way. And this is also something that seems to be easy, but somehow it isn't. And the good news is there are communication techniques that you can learn and practice. And the even better news is it's not only good for your PhD thesis and your scientific career, but for all your life domains. Because your life domains, yes, of course, if you want to strive for a scientific career, you should be dedicated to your to science, to work in science. We realize that it's quite demanding, but at the same time, it's really important to keep your life domain balance. You want to stay human, and you are more than a scientist. You're a whole human being with many aspects. And if you not only focus on career building, intellectual abilities, but hopefully also want to share some time with family and friends, you want to stay healthy, maybe sportive or artistic even. Some of you might play an instrument, for example. Then doing all these things will also help your career because it makes you more resilient. And in difficult times, you can rely on this being a whole you, and this will be helpful. So how can you start doing this? One way to do this is to reflect your life domains. And on the HPB website about gender equality measures and materials, you can find guidelines and templates, and these guidelines and templates will ask you, for example, on specific life domains, how you evaluate your current situation, where you would like to be in the future. And you are encouraged to set goals and to explore to which extent these goals for your life domains contradict or support each other, and to draw conclusions for your future plans accordingly. So there are, again, tools and materials out there that help you to balance your life domains. And of course, one part of it is this striving for scientific excellence. And that means you must spend quite some time focusing on your research and to derive publications, right? So merit in science is measured by publications that are hopefully accepted in high-ranking journals. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will get cited. So it's very important that people really know you, that you become known, and this is why you need these excellent networking skills. The more people who know you in advance, the more they're likely to say, oh, I know new paper from Camilla Blixhaven, so oh, I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna cite it. So this is about networking abilities. They will help you to be in your scientific community. And because we are human, be aware that also scientific communities are biased. Unfortunately, but that's the case. We are pattern recognition machines, our brains. So that means we all have our biases. To give you an example, we have a natural tendency to prefer to work with people who are similar to ourselves. And this might cause troubles if you become, if you, for example, come from a less known university or a very famous university, that would give you a positive bias. Or if you come from a country which is not that known for a specific field of research, or for example, if you're a woman, or belong to a minority in your field of science. So this is why it's very important that you support each other and critically reflect citation practices, whom you collaborate with and really strive for diversity together. Because this mutual support will help you. You need people whom you can trust, and trust and collaboration is one of the key success factors as well. And as Abigail Morrison pointed out in another career coffee break at the same eBrains infrastructure training, she gave us a good example. She said, it is, for example, hard to discuss with your supervisor if it's time to leave the group of your supervisor and take a new opportunity or not. You need at least a few more people to discuss these issues. And this is exactly why the HPB has established a mentoring program that Camilla mentioned at the beginning. And here you can really build your networks, reflect such issues as the one Abigail has mentioned. And I'm sure Sif will tell us even more in his presentation. But to add something, don't be naive. There's a high competition for top positions, and you will really be challenged and will need to stand your ground. Of course, people whom you can really trust on, where you develop the trusted relationship over a longer period of time, they will help you to do so and make you help stand your ground. So this is the end of my presentation. Here's a short screenshot on the HPB website. I hope I'm still in time and will stop sharing the screen right now.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Camilla.
So I can't see that we have any questions in our chat yet, but if you would like to ask a question already now, you can raise your hand. But it's also okay to ask questions later on.
Sure.
There will be more time. So you can post more questions later. So thank you very much, Karin. I think this is very good, also personally for me, to get this message today. I also had the pleasure of joining the mentoring program that you have developed, and I have found it very, very useful for my own career development. So I can really recommend this to everyone. Yes. Okay, so we'll hear more from you later.
Sure.
First now, for our second talk, I would like to welcome Siv, who will share his recent personal experience of looking for a postdoctoral position after finishing his PhD. So please, Siv.
Thank you, Camilla, and hello, everyone. Let me share my screen with you. Cool. So, yeah, as Camilla said, I've recently finished my PhD. I've submitted my thesis about a month ago after 4 years at Tel Aviv University in the field of neuroscience. And now I'm in between stages. I'm going to start a postdoctoral fellowship at Yale University in the United States in the upcoming April for 5 years. That's what it seems like now. I also invite you to ask questions while I'm talking afterwards. And also, if you have more personal questions or you feel uncomfortable, you can always email me. You'll find my email address here and also in the last slide. And yeah, basically, I want to share with you some facts, some tips, and mainly my personal experience from the last year of my PhD, which I was focusing both on finishing the PhD in time and also looking at the future, examining postdoc options or other options. Just with regard to the HBP, so that's a great example, and I will talk more about it, of how to start building your network, even in the early stages. So I joined in 2018, and I started then, and I'm still, until now, serving both as a student ambassador for the student community and also as a student representative at the Diversity and Equal Opportunity Committee. This is where I know Karin and Yulia from, and we'll talk about it next. So let's start with a basic question. Should I even do a postdoc? So let's say you're towards the end of your PhD, or even you finish your PhD and you go to your dad and you tell him, yeah, I finished my PhD. Now I'm going to search for a postdoc, which is the next natural step. Then his reaction might not be what you expected. So today I'm not going to talk about the big important question of whether to stay in the academy or to go to the industry or to take a break from everything, but it's a very important question, and I wanted to raise the awareness for that, and I will be happy to discuss it later. So today I'm going to focus on the option of trying to look for a postdoc and continue your academic career. So let's start with the basic. What is a postdoc? Everybody is saying that word, but we're not sure we know it. So it's very simple. A postdoc is the academic path of you after earning your doctoral degree or PhD, then moving to the next stage of postdoctoral, or in short, postdoc. You will also find people calling it postdoc fellowship, postdoc researcher, postdoc associate. It's all different terms for the same thing. And basically, this position is supposed to allow you to continue your training as a researcher beyond your PhD and to gain more skills, more experience, maybe in different methods and tools that will prepare you to become actually a own professor with a lab, a PI. You can see the stages here. So let's start. I'll tell you one good thing and one bad thing about postdoc that I've heard collected information from many people. So the good thing is that really the postdoc will be probably the best period of your academic career regarding the conditions. First of all, think about it. You're not a student anymore, so you don't have your supervisor always telling you what to do, or you're not obliged to do something specific. You have more independence. On the other hand, you're not yet a professor with your own lab, so you don't have the pressure from the university or something like that. So it really is a perfect time of some independence and not too much pressure. You'll have usually a budget, you have a lot of networking opportunities, the best facilities you ever had, probably different project. You have chances to publish and to make more collaboration towards the future. I like to use a metaphor which I've discussed with one of my colleagues who already finished his postdoc. We both are soccer fans. He told me that moving from a PhD to a postdoc is like moving from playing soccer in your local league, in my case, the Israeli league, and moving to the Champions League, moving to the highest level you can reach in the academy. And that's, again, the facilities, the tools, the collaboration, and everything. On the other hand, I found this article from 2013 saying the postdoc, a special kind of hell. So some people don't see that the same way. But of course, it's not all good, and it's also a long, demanding, and difficult phase, which you need to take into account. So I guess like everything in life, you have both advantages and disadvantages, and you hear different opinions. So try to listen to everyone, but also take the messages that are relevant to you and know that it's a very personal experience, and like everything has bad things and good things. So I'll start with some facts. Surprisingly, there are not a lot of facts about postdoc. This data is quite hidden or unattended. This is a report from 2015 published in Nature News. You have the name down here if you want to look at it afterwards. So basic facts are that since 1979, the number of postdoc positions in the US, but I'm sure in Europe as well, has more than tripled. You can see in all domains, in the health domain, engineering, and science. If you look more specifically of the majority of topics of the PhD, you would see that most of them are in the life sciences field, 65%. And another important thing, financial aspect, across all fields, you can see that the median salaries for a postdoc are nearly half of those which were non-postdoc. That was measured for people finishing the PhD and continuing not in the academy for the next 5 years. So those are some statistics. But more importantly, I want to share with you some personal tips, concise 4 key tips from my own experience. Again, I would like to say that, of course, it's objectively my experience, but I think because it has been recent and because I've done a lot of research about it, thinking about my future and planning it like Karin presented before with all the different considerations, I hope you will find it helpful. So first of all is to get advice from your PhD supervisor or supervisors, and also from colleagues that you know. I know that many students do not tell their supervisor, or I don't know if they're shy to tell or they're afraid their supervisor would tell them that they do not fit for a postdoc, or try to encourage them or disencourage them. But I think from my own personal experience that I've learned a lot, because my PhD supervisor, and I guess everyone's here, they know you for the best. They've been with you in the last years. They know your skills, they know your professional work, and they have a lot of connections with people within the country, international level, and people international level. And you can really use their network, and every place you go, you say, I've been a student of this supervisor in this university, and it's different than just sending an email to someone which is unknown. So I could elaborate more if you would like. Another thing is start building your network early. In my case, it was the HBP, and I will tell you, it was really by accident, kind of. Around 2 days before the HBP Summit, which is the annual event of the HBP in 2018, my professor told me that I was supposed to go, but she cannot go if I want to go instead of her. And I didn't even know what the HBP is, but I said, yeah, sounds good, a trip to the Netherlands, and they pay for it, why not? I came to the summit, I started to understand what it is. Briefly, I went to some lectures and some meetings, and in one of the meetings I've heard that the student community are looking for a student ambassador of sub-project 8, which apparently was my sub-project, so I was lucky, and I volunteered to be a student ambassador. I attended a monthly meeting and got to know a little bit more of the students from different groups. And in one of the meetings, they were talking about the Diversity and Equal Opportunities Committee, which Karin also mentioned, and that they are looking for a student representative there. And again, I had the opportunity. I said, why not? I joined this committee, got involved in some really great stuff that we can tell you more about it and you can read on the website. One of the most beneficial stuff was the opening of the mentoring program, which I've also participated last year. And like Camila said, for me, it was very beneficial on a personal level. It was the year which I had to decide what am I doing after my PhD. I had a great mentor, Professor Catherine Emmons, and with her I could consult if I want to stay in the academy, if I want to go to the industry. And after I decided I want to stay and do a postdoc, she really helped me with tips, practical tips and theoretical thoughts. And she really showed me the side of the PI, like it's important to be in the shoes of the principal investigator, and how is she treating emails from potential postdoc candidates and more. And like Karin said, again, I think it's very important to have someone you can talk to besides your PhD supervisor to get another view. So another thing which I would like to say is, again, the postdoc is a special period, and I think you should maximize your chances and look worldwide and outside your specialty and outside your comfort zone. It's once in a lifetime period. After that, you would probably be a PI in the academy or do something else. And before that, you were still a student. In my case, for example, I really aimed to the top-level universities, even though I was not confident that they will even answer my emails or that I'm good enough to go there. But with the support of my supervisor and my colleagues, I applied, and in the end, I got to this amazing situation, which I had actually 3 different options, which offered me postdoc position both in the NIH, in Yale University, and in Harvard University, and I just had to choose between them. And I really think it's not that I'm that cool or I did something amazing. It's just a combination of decent work and establishing your network early and get advices and not being afraid to try and apply. And the last thing about applying, funding, of course, money is also important. It really depends on the position you go. For example, for me, I got a postdoc at Yale, which they secured me a funding for 5 years, so I didn't have to bring funding. But in some cases, you do have to find your own funding, or at least some of it. And in any case, even if you have your funding, like in my case, I really recommend to apply because, first of all, it's good for your CV. I mean, you need to show you can be an independent researcher and get your own money. And it usually gives you also more networking opportunity and better connection. So it's not a lot of work to apply, and I think it's worth it. Here you have 2 websites, which I know which are big data sets of postdoctoral fellowship, but also I suggest you talk to people who recently went for a postdoc in your country, and they might be more helpful of finding specific ones. Okay, let's move to a more practical side. How do you even choose a lab? There are so many labs in the world, so many fields. So I would suggest early on in your PhD, start seeing what topics are your interest, start looking for universities and places. And in the end, you will find yourself with a list, and the selection of the lab should be based on these following criteria, in my opinion, and more probably, but the general scientific environment with the city or the area, the caliber of the university and the PI. You need to look where people who had just recently came out of the lab, where did they go? Did they get academic position? In which institutes? And whether you would like to go to a big and established lab, or you prefer going to a smaller lab. So I made a short diagram here. This is, of course, not all the labs are big or small, but you can make such of 2 choices, which are usually kind of offering different stuff. So a big lab will usually give you higher exposure, larger budget, more collaborations, potentially, higher probability to publish high, and higher chances of getting the fellowships I've talked about. On the other hand, in a small lab, you usually have closer interaction with the professor, more internal collaboration between people because it's a small group, more involvement of the PI in your project, and maybe higher motivation to publish high and fast, which you don't have if you're a big professor that doesn't really need more articles. Some potential pitfalls in larger labs, and again, it's very generalizing of everything, so don't take it like as rules. There's just some tips and stuff that I learned. So in larger labs, sometimes you will need to be more independent and manage your own project with no guidance from the PI, especially as a postdoc. You'll be more anonymous because it's a large group. There might be more competition. It doesn't necessarily, but it could be because there are a lot of people and everybody will try to stand out. And sometimes excess of money could lead to lack of innovation, just trying to do everything. What I suggest the most when you're choosing a lab is to talk with former and current lab members of the potential lab you're interested. Really important to find those people through connections. Maybe even if you don't know anyone, you try to go from someone in that institution or look at the lab website. People would usually love to share their experience and will tell you good things and bad things, especially former students, which are not already obliged to the professor and can really tell you what do they think in retrospective. The question of when to apply for a postdoc. So I would suggest to do it early, at least 8 months in advance. Because first of all, the summertime is always busy for the PIs. Usually when it's not COVID-19 outside, they travel all over the world. But even now, they're busy in preparing stuff for the new year, which starts in September, or sometimes they just take vacation time. So you should take that into consideration. And also you have some preparation to do for the postdoc, which will take time, finding relevant labs, getting recommendation letters from your from your supervisor and other people, get a response from the labs that you send emails to, schedule the visits. If you move to a different country, sometimes it requires a visa, for example, the US. Sometimes you're moving not alone with a family and you have to organize things. You need to submit fellowships. For that, you need ideas for a project and you need a specific lab. So it's also important to start that early. And of course, you'll have to finish all your obligations for the PhD thesis and your article. And finally, I want to share you a little bit of information about how to contact a lab. So usually you send something which is called a cover letter, usually by email. I would say that if you know someone by any connection, it's always better to be connected. For example, my supervisor connected me to another professor and she wrote a little about me and introduced me. So already I had some kind of advantage. But even if you don't know anyone, you can still write, of course, a cover letter. And these are the parts which you should include. And it should be really not too long, because think about it, the professor will probably get a lot of these and he doesn't have the whole day to read everything. So try to choose your words. First of all, you usually start by a short introduction, really straight to the point. Who are you? Where do you study? And when do you accept to finish your PhD? And when do you want to start your postdoc? You can also say, of course, you're flexible and you want to start between April to, I don't know, September. Then you have to show that you read about the lab and you're not just sending the same email to everybody. So show the professor your interest in the lab, maybe even mention a specific project or a specific paper of the lab that you read and you're specifically interested. Elaborate a little bit on your PhD. That should be no more than half a page, but all the projects you've done, the publications, maybe even adding a key publication to the email. Collaborations, maybe someone who is relevant to the potential lab and work with them. Again, connection is really important here. Specify if you have any classes or workshop you attended which are relevant to the lab interest and you can really help them and make them beneficial, and demonstrate that you have independence, you have leadership, and you have a unique way of thinking. Besides the cover letter, attach your CV, of course. Mention that you'll be happy to supply more recommendation letters. You don't need to send everything at first. It's enough to mention that you would be happy to supply them. And also that you plan to apply for funding sources or postdoc fellowships like I talked about. And emphasize that you'll be happy to come to the lab. It's a chance for both you and the professor and all the students to test each other and to present your data from the PhD and get to know better. Again, like I said, it should be maximum of 1 page, not too long, but something that will make the professor wanting to read your CV and wanting to invite you to the lab. Just a few warnings. Please do not send the same letter to everyone and do not state, oh, here's my CV, I'll be happy, I'm great for this job. Because the cover letter may determine whether the BZPI would even decide to read your CV or to delete the email right away. So you need to invest some time. Again, generic letters are very easy to spot. If you're just saying something general like, yeah, my name is Eve, I'm looking for a postdoc, be happy to be in your lab. So no, you need to be a little bit more specific what you did, how what you did is connected to what the lab is doing, what kind of ideas you think you can do, what kind of tools you can bring to the lab. Think about it as a kind of win-win situation. It's not only you applying to the lab because you're interested in what they're doing, but also it's important that they are interested in what you are bringing for them. And don't talk only about your PhD. People tend to focus only about the PhD. So again, one of the key tips I said, kind of broaden your specialism, broaden your network, specify other things you've done, and specify how the things you've done in your PhD would be useful and helpful for your postdoc research and even afterwards. Like you want to open your own lab, what are your plans? You need to show some ambition and creativity. So yeah, that's my 10 minutes, a little bit more. I would like to thank you for your attention. Again, feel free to contact me in my email for any question. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. So I think it's very cool and inspiring to hear your story. I think you really show the value of taking initiative. So that's great. I guess it's what Karin already talked about, that this could really aid in your career development. So we do have some questions. First, where can we find the tools to say no that Karin mentioned? I have
okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting that saying no is such an important issue. So actually, I promised that all the materials are on this HBB website, but I have to look it up if saying no is part of it, and if not, I will add it and send it to you because I have it ready in my pile of tools. So if I share it with you, Camilla, after this session, would you be able to share it with everyone who attended this session?
I hope so.
Okay.
The education can help me.
Or otherwise, we put it in the Slack room as well. And for those who are not on Slack, just send me an email, and I will send you all the details and some nice exercises to practice saying no.
That's great. The education program now is confirming that they can definitely share this.
Wonderful. So we'll do that. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So we have another question from Safa, who has just started her master in systems neuroscience. She's wondering, is it possible to participate in the mentorship program now? And in general, what would you recommend for someone in her position?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe that's something where SIF can also join in. So the mentoring program will start in 2021 again in spring 2021 for you. So we can have a look there for you to join it. And as a master student in this early career stage, I would say you really work with your supervisor and your team, and SIF gave a perfect example to have a look around within the HBB, these opportunities like the Students' Conference, for example, the many trainings that are out there that will help you to connect and develop more details on how to follow your plans and how to move from the master to the PhD. SIF, would you like to add something on this?
Yeah, thank you, Karin. Like you said, for me, it was very, very beneficial, the mentoring program. It's really a platform for you to consider and share all your thoughts and all your concern, and everything is confidential starting from the first meeting, so you can say whatever is on your mind. And I really think for me it was a great opportunity, and for all the other people which I've seen, it was very helpful. And again, it's important to take advantage of those situations. It's not only things that fall on you or you're lucky and you get them. If you have an opportunity, I think it's important to take it and to try it. Some of the things I took, I did some extra work and I had to volunteer for that. But in the end, I think the benefits of it and the advantages are so much bigger than what you need to actually invest. So in short, yeah, I'm highly recommended in any stage, either early in your master's or in your middle of your PhD or in the end. I think it would be great.
If I understood you right, it's also about volunteering. You mentioned to be part of a committee, to really not only, as we said in this paradox, not only focus on your research, but to look a little bit around and see with whom you collaborate, demonstrate that you're part of something. And then you will develop new ideas, fresh ideas from how to move from your master to the PhD. Would you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I think it's important to volunteer, and sometimes I went to conferences and workshops and I had to work to prepare a lecture. But in the end, I met so many interesting people and I stayed in touch with them during my PhD, and I got some interesting opportunities. And it's really a lot about exactly like what you said, Karin. It's in the end, it's a network, and you need to be known, and you have a lot of people. And I think there's no replacement for personal contact And it's different than just sending an email to someone or, just sending an article. When you know the person, it gives you a lot of advantages and it gives the other people an opportunity to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead with some more questions if we have time. Siv, how did you decide between Yale, Harvard, and
NIH.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can talk about it for a long time. I'll try to give it the highlight. So basically, I got to a position where I felt like a kid in a candy store, because all I had is good options, and I was really afraid to say, like Karin said, to say no to someone was more scary for me than saying yes, because like who am I that I would say no to Harvard or something? But in the end, I really realized that all of them are really great options. I spoke with my mentor, by the way, from the mentoring program a lot, and she told me, listen, Ziv, it's all great options. Whatever you will do, it will be fine. And I really went on, like, all the professional aspects were great in all of them. All the funding was great in all of them. And I really started thinking about more of a personal views, like which city and area I would prefer to be, and, some of the personal aspects. And also, in the end, I went with my gut feeling, something that I cannot really explain, but I felt that Yale was the option. Yeah, I'm sure all of them would be great, and sometimes you need to make tough decisions. It's not always easy.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I really hope that you'll find your place at Yale next year. So another question from Alejandra. Should you apply to funding before or after having secured the position?
Okay, good question. So basically, most of the fellowship that I applied, you do it for postdoc fellowship. You do it in the last year of your PhD, and you kind of need to start checking labs, because a lot of the fellowships, they ask you to already suggest or specify which lab are you going, in which institute, and even to write your research plan. So it should be while you're already looking for it. Doesn't mean that you have to be secured a postdoc. It's okay even if you have 2 or 3 options, like I had in the end. You can choose one of them and write about it. It's not something that you commit to. If you say, I'm going to do to this place and do this thing, and you get funding, and in the end you decide to go to a different place, I think it's not a big deal. But indeed, it's not something you should do before you even start looking for labs, because they will ask you what kind of labs are you going to. So yeah, I hope I answered it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we'll do some quick questions. How many applications did you send for a postdoc position?
Okay, how many applications? In general, I would say around 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Some of them were not answered at all. Some of them were answered. In the end, the places which wanted me the most, I think, and I wanted the most, is people that I established some relations with them, or that my PI had relations with them, or the mentor. And yeah, it's not, and don't be disappointed. I forgot to say, but sometimes you send an emails and you don't get a response. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not good. It's just a matter of think about it. There's a lot of people applying, and I'm sure you can find your place. Sometimes it's better. You don't want to have 15 options. It's even harder to choose one.
Yeah. What do you think it would be is the salary range for a postdoc?
Yeah, so I can tell you about the US, because this is where I check, but I think it might be similar in Europe. So basically, it used to be very variable, but in recent years, kind of the whole country decided on a minimum wage, and the minimum wage in the States is usually $50,000 per year. But you can also, if you get fellowships, or if you talk with your future lab, it can be 55 or 60. It can definitely increase, but the minimum wage in the States, at least, is 50,000 per year.
Yeah.
Dollars.
Okay. So we have some more questions, but we can post them in the Slack channel, and then the speakers can answer them there. So I guess we can see some information about this Slack channel here. I want to just say very much thank you to Karin, Steve, and Julia as well, and to all the participants. Thank you for joining in. So today we had a special session with 2 non-scientific talks on career development, while the HPP Teen Slides usually features scientific talks from young HPP researchers. So if you would like to present your own work in an upcoming session, please get in touch with the HPP Education Program. And if you haven't already signed up for the HPP Student Conference in February, it's next year, you can still do, and the deadline for abstract submission is actually tomorrow. And the next HPP Teen Slides will happen on Thursday, December 3rd. And registration will open 1 week in advance, so we hope we will see you all again. And when we now close this session, a browser window will pop up with a survey. We ask you to please answer the questions so we get some feedback on this event format and how we can still improve it. It takes
Camilla, may I ask you one question? If I'm a master student, can I still present something for Teen Slides? Because that was a question, and maybe Teen Slides is a perfect room to, become visible and just try to present your work, even if it's on an early stage. Is that correct?
Yes, I would say absolutely. Get in touch with the education@humanbrainproject.eu or in the Slack channel, and we will see how we can make this fit. That would be a great opportunity. Okay, so thank you all very much, and have a nice Thursday afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.